I've seen Yorgos Lanthimos' The Lobster twice now, and the first thing that I noticed each time was a cold and distant affect. I thought to myself, why was it so great? Because yes, it really is that great, if it is in fact so distant. For all intents and purposes, it should not be a movie that people actually like. My mother thinks it's sick, and yet it's one of the most interestingly constructed films of all time, especially since it's not hard to see where the thematic inspiration comes from. The Lobster owes everything it has to Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary. What an odd statement, but the same craft that Gustave Flaubert contributed to his classic novel of contrasting realism and romanticism is used by the screenwriters Yorgos Lanthimos and Efthimos Philippou to build their story of love and violence in The Lobster. But on that note, we need to dig a little bit deeper, and while it's not the deepest similarity, we need to look at characters and the way that they interpret their worlds. The world of the Lobster requires that all people must have a partner, or they will be sent to a hotel where they stay for 45 days. At the end of these 45 days, if the partner is not found, the person in question will be turned into an animal of their choice and released into the wild. David, the main character, has just been left by his wife of 12 years and has now come to the hotel with his brother, who is now a dog. Madame Bovary lives in Reconstruction France, where she's given by mainly herself and outside sources a sense of unrealistic romanticism for both the world and mainly love. She thinks she lives in a large, wonderful world, but actually lives in a bleak farm town in the countryside of France that is too plain for the likes of her, or at least she thinks so. The characters aren't the same exactly, but there's an imposition of a similar over-romantic ideal in The Lobster. In The Lobster, the ignorance afforded to Emma Bovary is more of a cultural sickness. The Lobster is made up of people living in a dull, almost flat-looking world that think that things like encompassing love exist, and the over-the-top happy romantic idealism does as well, much like Emma Bovary. The cinematography, beautifully done by Themios Bakatakis in The Lobster, shows the world to be oddly flat for as impassioned as the characters seem. The whites are really white and the colors around them muted, a nice touch for the black and white reasoning of the world. The faults of Emma Bovary are the faults of the society here, and the results are just as jarring and hilarious as in Flaubert's novel. The similarities of character and interpretation in the world almost seem superficial when one considers what really ties these two works of art together. This comes in the way that they are presented to the audience. Consider the moment of Madame Bovary when Homais, the pretentious pharmacist, writes a letter detailing the great achievement of a clubfoot operation that Emma's bumbling husband has just performed to disastrous effect. Not that Homais or most characters know this yet, only to be interrupted with the realistic and unnerving statement about the patient. "Help! He is dying! I am going crazy!" This is almost no different in style of deflation than the moments of expectation building to deflation in The Lobster, such as a moment between two women on one of the pair's final days before transformation. The moment is difficult to explain quickly, but two women characters, who we as an audience perceive as excellent lovers, in that they seem to have an actual friendship connection rather than the black and white attraction of similarities that the rest of the society is built on, are meeting for the last time before one is turned into an animal, the other having found her partner on the basis that they both get bloody noses from time to time, i.e. that black and white attraction of similarities. The partnered girl reads a letter of great intimacy. "We always sat together at school, and when I had a problem, I always came to you because you had the best advice. When we didn't manage to find dance partners at the school prom, the fact that we were together at that difficult moment gave me strength. I'm sorry that things have come to this. I'm sure if you had a few more days, you would find someone just like I did." These do not seem to be words of just a friend, but one of a lover. This is intimate and beautiful stuff that, coupled with the actress's performances, brings the audience to a romantic high. But it turns there at the ending, doesn't it? Find someone just like I did. It turns and the realism of the moment is heartbreaking, yet funny. It's frustrating. The letter reads to its end as a somewhat pompous, stuck-up contemplation of how the writer will remember her good friend, and the other girl smacks her. Realism has trumped our feelings of romanticism. Flaubert and Lanthimos are playing the same game, and with equally cold but tickling results. Both works are in essence about making the audience feel the way the characters do, and the romantic sickness of the Lobster and Madame Bovary are one and the same, as they use emotional manipulation to deflate in inspiring and hysterical ways.